pop-up peace singers. This is Margaret Walters. My name is Sue G.
And we're also known as the Raucous Anti-AUKUS Chorus.
The Raucous Anti-AUKUS Chorus. That's a bit of a mouthful.
There's still song sheets if you want to take them home and sing.
So this is the Hiroshima and Nagasaki Never Again rally. So I've been last few years, and there's a good sized crowd here today, and they generally always march over to Pitt Street afterwards to the Department of Defence. I just got here right on kick-off time, but obviously these ladies were singing, or these people were singing, and now they said this is the last song by this gentleman in the middle there. And then it will, I'm assuming, then speeches, then a march. So yeah, it's the 1st of August 2026. Sorry to do an intro in the beginning. I got here after the Brumby rally, and there's a little bit of tiny little bit of media here, which there wasn't any at the Brumby rally at all. Okay, so we'll just wait till this guy gets his machine teed up, and we'll listen in. That is so cute. The little lady is fixing him up, make sure he's all tucked in properly. There we go.
All right, thank you. Okay. Ooh, that's loud. I've only got one song for you guys, and I hope you all like it. It's one of my favorite anti-war songs, written by Irene Paul and originally performed by Faith Petrick. It's called Grandma's Battle Cry. It's blowing in the wind again, it's drifting in the rain. Before the dead have mouldered yet, or wounded healed their pain. I am so old, my grandsons, that I remember when I marched to hail the armistice. I was barely 10. That was the war against all war, to save democracy. Praise God, they said, we've won the peace for all eternity. I marched for Spain when some years passed, and marched and marched, and then another war to end all war, and so I marched again. I marched in Minneapolis, Chicago and Duluth, in San Francisco and New York. I marched to shout the truth. I marched in Hiroshima and knelt before a stash of millions of bones, of people atomized to ash, and with the distant rumble of new regiments of men, I read the warning on the tomb, this must not be again. I marched to staunch Korea's blood, I marched for Vietnam. I marched to stop the napalm, and I marched to stop the bomb. I marched and marched and marched, oh Lord, I'm sure I've done my due. I've marched since I was barely 10, and now I'm 72. I should be lying in the sun, or dreaming in the grass. But how when generals everywhere are polishing their brass, entranced by dreams of 4-star rolls, so help me Lord, they're glad. It's said that whom the gods destroy, they first must render mad. Their burning eyes see no man's lands, and armies poised for action. And you, my warm and loving ones, are merely an abstraction. It's geopolitics again, and oh, with what finesse the players push the pawns about, those masterminds of chess. How cunningly they plot each move, how skillfully they spar, and checkmate one another like the masters that they are. How stimulating, how intense, a world to lose or gain. Except for one dismaying fact, the players are insane. Control dispassionate they play this game that madness spawns. And I can't even look away, my children are the pawns. I marched for staunch Korea's blood, I marched for Vietnam. I marched to stop the napalm, and I marched to stop the bomb. I marched and marched and marched, oh Lord, I'm sure I've done my due. I've marched since I was barely 10, and now I'm 72. Some people go on fighting when they've lost an arm or leg. Some still keep up the struggle when they're fragile as an egg. I've heard men rasping, I object, with voices turned to gravel. I've seen a woman raise a fist that couldn't lift a gavel. And even with a broken heart, one still can make a stand. So lead my children, lead the way, reach back and take my hand. We'll march again, confound them all, don't quibble at my age. I'll shield you with my brittle bones, I'll nourish you with rage. I marched for staunch Korea's blood, I marched for Vietnam. I marched to stop the napalm, and I marched to stop the bomb. I marched and marched and marched, oh Lord, I'm sure I've done my due. I've marched since I was barely 10, and now I'm 72. We'll march again, confound them all, don't quibble at my age. I'll shield you with my brittle bones, I'll nourish you with rage.
Thank you all, Hiroshima Day.
Before we start, could we have another round of applause for the pop-up singers? And for Alex. Today we're celebrating or commemorating Hiroshima Day and Nagasaki Day. But before we do that, we must remember that we're on Aboriginal land and that we pay our respects to the elders, both past and present and emerging. And we also recognise that their land was stolen, and stolen very violently, and stolen in a war that hasn't been recognised. So we recognise the Aboriginal rights to this land and that we're on stolen land. Each year before we start, we read out a small statement. This year's statement reads, "We are here to remember that on August 6 and August 9, 1945, 81 years ago, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Almost 200,000 men, women and children were killed instantly, and many thousands more died later of burns and radiation sickness. We are here to remember those who died in this horrific event, and to remember all the victims of nuclear war preparations, including those who lived in the Pacific Islands and our own First Nations people who died during the British tests here. Since that terrible event, France, Britain, China, Russia, India, Pakistan, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and Israel have acquired nuclear weapons. We say that no country should ever have nuclear weapons. Civil society has pushed back against nuclear weapons, and an organisation founded in Melbourne, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, known as ICAN, has successfully got the UN to pass the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. So far, 95 states have ratified this treaty. We demand that the Australian government ratify the UN treaty to ban nuclear weapons, to reject the AUKUS nuclear-powered submarines, and to reject the opposition's proposal for nuclear power reactors in 7 states. Australia is supporting wars and is preparing for war instead of concentrating on solving the social issues in Australia and the region. There are no victors or vanquished in a nuclear war. Today we solemnly vow to do everything we can to make sure that Hiroshima and Nagasaki never happen again. Before we have a minute's silence, there's one hero of the peace movement in Sydney that we should stop to remember, and that man was named by the name of Bevan Ramston, who many of you know, who died about a week ago. Bevan made a magnificent contribution to the peace movement of Sydney and Newcastle, and I think earlier in his life in Melbourne. So as we start our minute's silence, we remember the victims of nuclear war, and we remember our local hero, Bevan Ramston. Silence, please, everyone. Thank you, everyone. We're very lucky to have with us today Dr. Ruth Mitchell. Dr. Ruth Mitchell is a neurosurgeon on Gadigal land. She's the chair of the board of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War and a member of the Australian board of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017. Would you please welcome Dr. Ruth to the mic?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It is a huge honour to be here on unceded sovereign Gadigal land, and I want to begin by acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. 81 years ago this month, a uranium bomb was detonated by the United States over Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945. It flattened and burned around 70% of the beautiful city of Hiroshima, and by the end of that year, more than 140,000 people had died. 3 days later, a larger plutonium bomb exploded over Nagasaki, killing 74,000 people in that city by the end of the year. Ground temperatures in Nagasaki reached 4,000 degrees Celsius, and radioactive rain poured down. The survivors of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, known as the hibakusha, lived with massively increased rates of cancer and chronic diseases, and some of these were passed down to subsequent generations. Now, speaking as a doctor and as a neurosurgeon, I'm often called upon to treat severely injured people. And there's a few things about what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki that I find unconscionable. The main one is that this awful poisonous incineration was entirely preventable and unnecessary. But I also find it unspeakable that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were a context where no meaningful humanitarian response was possible. In Hiroshima, 90% of the doctors and nurses were killed or injured. 42 of the 45 hospitals were rendered completely unusable, and 70% of the victims had combined injuries. There are these polytrauma victims with, in most cases, severe burns in addition to other injuries. All the dedicated burns beds everywhere in the world at this point in history would not be enough to care for the survivors of a single nuclear weapons bombed city. That's how many injured people these weapons generate. It takes about 10 seconds for the fireball from a nuclear explosion to reach its maximum size, but the effects last for decades and span across generations. When people ask for a nuclear weapons expert, they often think of a nuclear physicist. an Oppenheimer, perhaps. But I want you to realize and think about the fact that the hibakusha from Japan and nuclear survivors everywhere are actually the nuclear weapons experts we need to hear from. I want to pay tribute to the tireless efforts by hibakusha to rid the world of nuclear weapons to this very day. Their stories are stories of hope and determination after destruction, and these stories must not be lost. Survivors of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are living witnesses, most of them have died out now, to the horror of nuclear war. And when we talk about nuclear weapons, we must talk about the real, unacceptable effects they have on human beings. Last year, I was really fortunate to visit both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and to pay my respects to those whose lives were taken senselessly, and to listen to the surviving hibakusha. And what surprised me one night as I walked through Hiroshima's Peace Park was to find a small group of people, including some second and third generation hibakusha, protesting the destruction of Gaza. The sight of these good people of Hiroshima standing in solidarity with the people of Palestine moved me to tears. A city that has endured so much has found room in their hearts for those currently being targeted and destroyed. We are all connected, and when one city suffers, we are all diminished. Closer to home, we must grapple with the enormous and terrible legacy of British nuclear testing on unceded sovereign Aboriginal land at Maralinga and Emu Fields in the South Australian desert and on the Montebello Islands. In the 1950s, there were 12 major and many more minor nuclear detonations in Australia in these 3 locations, and many of those were far bigger than the explosions in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The impacts of these tests on Indigenous people, military personnel, community members, and on the environment continue to be felt. The responses for the affected communities and survivors has been wholly inadequate. There is a terrible responsibility in the hands of those who have performed these so-called tests, and we call for accountability. Thank you. Here in Australia, it appears that we have a huge gap between taking seriously the way in which Indigenous folks and others have suffered as a result of nuclear testing and our nuclear posture as a nation. We have facilities at Northwest Cape, near Exmouth in Western Australia, and Pine Gap near Alice Springs, which support the US in early warning, communications, and targeting operations, which are essential for nuclear war planning. Shame. Under AUKUS, US Virginia-class attack submarines will start arriving at HMAS Sterling near Perth from next year. Will these be armed with nuclear weapons? Yes. Shame. Now, when I was a little medical student, I was lucky enough to join the Medical Association for the Prevention of War. And both MAPW and the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, the umbrella federation, which I now chair the board of, helped give birth to a new campaign, which you've already heard about, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. And so that campaign was launched in Melbourne in 2007. And 10 years later, we were the main civil society partner in negotiations for a treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Now, this is healthy public policy. This UN treaty now has 100 signatories and 75 state parties. But despite the support of the Red Cross, the AMA, the trade unions, the teachers, more than 60 religious organizations, the majority of surveyed Australians, and hundreds of Australian parliamentarians, to our great shame, Australia has not yet joined the treaty. Shame. Recently, we in ICAN Australia were joined by a delegation of our beautiful Pacific siblings, marking the 80th anniversary of the first US nuclear detonations on, in, and above the Marshall Islands, as well as other nuclear tests in the Pacific. To this day, parts of the Marshall Islands are still 10 times more radioactive than Chernobyl or Fukushima. The nuclear tests here in Australia, throughout the Pacific, and elsewhere have disproportionately affected Indigenous people and are part of the nuclear racism we all must grapple with. The invitation from our Pacific siblings is to join them in signing and ratifying the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. They're way ahead of us. They have provided the moral leadership we have been lacking, even in the face of denial and exclusion of their lived experiences and their expertise as surviving communities. Friends, we live in dangerous times. We're at a time when the risk of nuclear accidents and the use of nuclear weapons are at an all-time high. The targeting of nuclear facilities, the threat of use of nuclear weapons, the renewal of nuclear arsenals are worrying enough, without considerations of the ways in which AI systems are already being integrated into nuclear weapons command and control. The marriage of AI and conventional weapon systems, particularly in Gaza, has been utterly catastrophic. Earlier this year, I had the privilege of serving on a medical mission in Gaza, and I was eyewitness to the destruction that these weapon systems have brought. There can be no way forward for the human race in the ongoing presence of nuclear weapons. Either we get rid of nuclear weapons, or they will get rid of us. Please join me in insisting and urging our Australian government to show some leadership, get on the right side of history, and join the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Look, I must apologise. When I started, I was a bit unnerved because I'd lost my phone, and subsequently the police have found it and returned it to me, so I'm feeling a lot happier. So at this point, I'd like to you to know that this, my name is Dennis Doherty. I'm from the Hiroshima Day Committee. It's a rather smallish committee, but we've been going for quite a few years, and we have some merchandise. Claire over there has some badges from last year with the number 80 on them. Please take one. If you haven't got any money for it, don't matter. Keep it for 100 years and then take it to the Antique Roadshow, and I'm sure they'll be worth hundreds. So please take a badge or two for your grandchildren and so on. So please don't feel shy. In regard to the various organisations that support us, we must give credit to the trade union movement. Both the Teachers Federation and the CFMEU have been stalwarts of this committee for many, many years, and they still are. At present, down at the Trades Hall, there is a peace display on. So from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 at night, you can go into the foyer and have a look at the peace display of posters and that from various campaigns, peace campaigns throughout Sydney. One of the union that's also got a fantastic reputation for work for nuclear disarmament is the electric trade unions, the ETU. And we're very lucky to have with us the Assistant General Secretary, Matt Murphy. Please welcome Matt to the mic.
Everyone, I'd also like to acknowledge the land on which we meet, pay my respects on behalf of our organisation to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation on whose land we meet today. And sovereignty was never ceded, but it's not just Indigenous sovereignty that is threatened here. I'd like to also thank the Hiroshima Day Committee and its affiliated organisations for the invite this afternoon to speak to you about a matter that we take a fairly strong stand on, a very important stand, I think, for trade unions, for all workers, and for anyone with any sort of level of empathy to support. So I'd just like to thank the Hiroshima Day Committee for that as well. As Dennis said, my name's Matt Murphy. I'm the Assistant National Secretary of the ETU. It is a very great honour to be here. And I do thank you for that. I'm going to talk to you about a few things this afternoon. One is the deployment of nuclear weapons in World War II. That's essentially what we commemorate today. AUKUS Pillar 1, which we've had quite a bit to say about recently, and also the potential for deployment of nuclear weapons right now. and our union, finally our union and its opposition to nuclear energy and nuclear power, which have held since the end of the Second World War. Comrades, it's 81 years today, on the 6th of August, that the first nuclear weapon deployed in combat was used over Hiroshima in Japan. 3 days later in Nagasaki, a similar but different weapon was also deployed. The Hiroshima weapon detonated 600 metres and the Nagasaki atrocity at 500 metres above ground level, well within your sight. People going about their business, yes, there was a major international conflict, but innocent people going about their business, hurtling towards them from approximately 15,000 feet and detonating 600 metres above their head was the most destructive weapon ever deployed in the history of warfare. The effects were extraordinarily destructive and indiscriminate, and estimates of those killed range from 150,000 to 246,000. The military casualties were less than 11,000 and included Allied prisoners of war. Australians died in the first nuclear attack in Japan. The Japanese civilians didn't get to choose the actions of their political or military leaders. It's clear that, as with all wars, the effect on the innocent civilians is far worse than on the political, military and business class who choose to send others to take part in conflict. Our union has been I heard someone mention earlier about the AUKUS public inquiry. I'd urge you all to get to that website, the inquiry being chaired by Peter Garrett, and make a submission. Everyone should be able to make some form of submission in opposition, and it doesn't have to be that strong to be an educated one. Please contribute. We attended, we made submissions, I made submissions on behalf of our union on that public inquiry on the 16th of July. It was the same day and shortly after the former Minister for Defence in the last coalition government, Christopher Pyne, made clear that one of the main purposes of AUKUS was the establishment and maintenance of a strategic submarine base, US submarine base, in the Indian Ocean, with one reason. One reason for that presence was to threaten our largest trading partner. For one reason, to provide a strategic threat to our largest trading partner who has never threatened any part of Australia itself. Not once, not ever. And we're inviting our ally, the only country to deploy nuclear weapons in combat, to this country for a permanent base. The ETU appeared at the inquiry on the same day as Pyne. One of our AUKUS partners, with whom we will develop a nuclear attack submarine class, has 23 decommissioned nuclear-powered submarines currently stored in the UK, waiting to be dismantled. Some at Devonport in the south, and some in Rosyth in Scotland. It was made clear by us in our submissions that not just the US, but certainly the UK, our partner that will provide us with perhaps one day nuclear submarines, can't even dispose of the ones they have in a safe manner. 23 former in-service Royal Navy submarines exist within short distance from the coastline of the UK. Not possible to decommission them quickly after or dispose of them or dismantle them shortly after they are decommissioned. It is not possible because of the very nature of nuclear energy. Today, there are at least 9 countries who actually admit it that have nuclear weapons. They are China, France, India, Israel, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, the United Kingdom and the United States. Clear correlation exists between nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. There are 31 countries with nuclear power. 8 of those countries have nuclear weapons. Of those 8 that have nuclear weapons, 5 have nuclear-powered submarines. Of those, there is only one country that has nuclear weapons but does not have nuclear power. It happens to be North Korea, bizarrely, but it is what it is. Of all the countries in the world, only one country has used nuclear weapons in combat, and that is our ally. That is our ally. The only country to commit that war crime, that single war crime, of which by its simple act was any number of war crimes you could demonstrate, the unnecessary targeting, the capacity to destroy huge amounts of infrastructure and people, the overreaction, the nature of the injuries caused by it, all form war crimes. And today, a single example, among others, a BGM-109 Tomahawk land attack missile can be fitted with a nuclear warhead. We have ship-launched Tomahawks currently in service in the Royal Australian Navy. Submarines our government intends to acquire will have Tomahawk missiles as well, and the capability to launch them, to target them and launch them. Today, as we speak, major conflicts exist in Europe and in the Middle East. Ukraine and Russia, Israel, Syria, the Gulf states and Iran. The political situation in Israel continues to develop, continues to deteriorate. Rogue factions are appearing within the Israeli government as we speak. In Ukraine, again, rogue factions are appearing within the Ukrainian government. The continuing deterioration and the emergence of far-right rogue actors with access to weapons of mass destruction is not inconceivable. These are threats to humanity. Launching one invites a retaliation. It's something that the major powers lived with and advocated for, the very tenet of their existence, for 50 years through the Cold War. Launching one invites a response, usually an overwhelming one. We've all seen, or should have, the insane rush of Western governments, ours included, to offload current military assets such as armoured vehicles, particularly to Ukraine, and others. The hurried transfer of weapons of war had a primary purpose. It was military asset recycling. It was an opportunity for the insatiable, craven and greedy defence companies to sell even more weapons of destruction. And our government was obviously keen and willing participant. Our union remains committed to opposing nuclear energy and weapons as we have since the end of the Second World War. We regard AUKUS as a threat to our sovereignty and our security. The reasons for that are obvious. We find some comfort that the acquisition of second-hand Virginia-class submarines by the RAN will never happen. But they haven't conceded that. We need to continue to campaign. The $368 billion cost of AUKUS can be much better spent for schools, hospitals, peaceful and productive infrastructure and housing. Some of that cost will be far better directed to develop an energy transition, in fact, that can deliver clean and affordable energy for everyone, highly skilled, well-paid, WHS assured, secure jobs, secure union jobs, especially in the regions, a genuine contribution to the viability of the planet, and all in all, a country that has no need for nuclear energy. There is no economic argument that justifies it. In summary, comrades, our commitment to oppose nuclear power and weapons remains steadfast. It is well reasoned, well articulated, and perhaps more importantly, on the basis of broad member support, democratic. This is a democratic decision our organisation has taken for many years and continues to reinforce. The ETU, as I said earlier in the year, reaffirms our commitment to standing with comrades in opposing nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, and perhaps, ultimately, even the elimination of war itself. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much to Matt, and thanks to the trade union movement for their support over the years. The event today is 3 speeches here, and then we'll march to the Defence Department. For those of you who don't know, we'll go down Bathurst Street, right into Castlereagh, right into Liverpool, and then up to 320 Pitt Street. We'll do that at the end of the next speech. I remind people that the badges are still, I think there's still some badges left. Please get a badge. Remember, in a couple of 100 years, they'll be very valuable on Antiques Roadshow. And also, be prepared to make lots of noise once we get going. Now, our next speaker is Abigail Boyd. Abigail is the Greens MP for New South Wales in the New South Wales Parliament. Abigail has been an outspoken advocate for global peace, climate justice and economic reform, and has for years campaigned alongside peace and nuclear groups, unions and communities for Australia to withdraw from AUKUS, from the AUKUS political pact. She comes to us after a stunning appearance recently on Four Corners about food contamination, which has got nothing to do with the present issue. Please welcome Abigail.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me speak, and thank you so much to the tireless organisers, and for all of you for continuing to come out year after year as we raise our voices collectively for peace. It is incredible to be here with you on Gadigal land. This land is, was and always will be Aboriginal land. So, here we are ahead of the 6th August anniversary of the horrific massacre of Japanese civilians 81 years ago. Nuclear destruction delivered from the sky, characterised and propagandised by the West ever since as some necessary action taken in the name of peace. On August the 6th, 1945, a modified B-29 dropped a uranium gun-type bomb named Little Boy on Hiroshima. 3 days later, another B-29 dropped a plutonium implosion bomb named Fat Man on Nagasaki. Hundreds of thousands were killed, and more than 70% of the buildings in Hiroshima were destroyed. The residents of these cities continue to suffer health problems for generations as a result of that toxic radiation. And since that day, humanity has lived in the shadow of those mushroom clouds. But it's not just communities that have been bombed directly that suffer from the expansion of nuclear weapons. From the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to the radioactive legacies of testing on First Nations land in Australia, at Maralinga, at Emu Field and the Montebello Islands and across the Pacific, including in the Marshall Islands, Kiribati and Maui Nui. Communities continue to bear these scars. There is a profound psychopathy that pervades the modern state, that calls on political leaders to accept and even embrace the concept of potentially world-ending weaponry. Right now, in hangars and submarines and silos dotted around the world is the capacity to destroy the world many times over. And the political mainstream accept and welcome that reality, claiming it is fundamental to the protection of society. While the strength of the anti-war and anti-nuclear movement has waned since its strengths during the Cold War, when people woke each morning acutely aware of the possibility of nuclear annihilation, the need for such a movement today has never been greater. Geopolitical tensions and warmongering and mistrust have escalated the risk of nuclear warfare to its highest levels in decades. These weapons are growing in power, in range, and in stealth. The world teeters one mistake, one miscalculation, one rash act of aggression or misapprehension away from complete destruction. We've just witnessed the change in leaders of a nuclear-armed country, the United Kingdom. Now that change of leadership brought with it an apt metaphor for the reality and dangers of nuclear war. When a new Prime Minister is sworn in the United Kingdom, their very first act is to write their letters of last resort. These letters are handwritten instructions from the Prime Minister providing instructions to the commanders of the UK's nuclear-armed submarines for how they should respond if the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was killed by a nuclear attack. Their contents are never known. They live locked in a safe, locked inside another safe, on board 4 separate nuclear submarines. There is no democratic input into their contents. The public nor anyone else ever learns their contents. Yet they contain within them instructions that could see the entire world fall into total nuclear Armageddon via instructions from beyond the grave. This death cult impulse pervades the military posture of the West. The concept of nuclear deterrence is one predicated on the idea that if you hurt me, I will burn down the entire globe in my vengeance. This power should not exist. All nuclear weapons and the policy of nuclear deterrence which perpetuates their existence must be abolished. Australia must halt the expanding integration with nuclear-armed allies like the United States, the United Kingdom under AUKUS and other military alliances expanding military integration. As horrific and indiscriminate as the impacts of nuclear weapons are, the campaign against them cannot be limited to a campaign against them alone. Nuclear war is only the end game in a long, brutal series of imperialist geopolitics and warmongering. It is not enough to attack the toxic fruits of this imperial war machine. We must rip it out from its roots and replace it with something purer, which will nourish the world, not poison and destroy it. Australia must renegotiate the US alliance with the terms of a new relationship focused on making Australia safer and a better global citizen. It needs to pass war powers legislation that is currently before the Senate to require parliamentary approval for decisions that commit Australia to war. We must close all foreign military bases in Australia and sign and ratify the Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty. And we must every day rededicate ourselves to the relentless campaign for peace, diplomacy, and solidarity. Hiroshima Day is a solemn day of remembrance, but remembrance can't just be about the past. It has to be about the future. Today, as the drums of war beat once again, as politicians and pundits push for increased military spending and saber rattling in the Pacific and wage wars of destruction in the Middle East, we must be vigilant and resist the urge to repeat the mistakes of the past. True remembrance requires that we demand our leaders prioritise diplomacy and peace over conflict. It means investing in community and investing in strengthening the ties of solidarity. It means investing in healthcare and support for veterans, not weapons and warships that will only create more tragedy and loss. Remembrance means recommitting ourselves fully and wholeheartedly to learning the only true lesson of war, that it is something to avoid, not to invite ourselves into. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abigail. Look, the next step will take a little bit of time, but over there, over that way, you should see the black banner which says Hiroshima Never Again. So would people, Frank, would you put your hand up, and Andre? So if you line up behind that banner, there's need for one or two people to help with the banner. So line up behind that banner, and we'll be in the hands of the police in a few minutes. We'll go down to that corner and then along Bathurst. So could everyone start to get themselves organised? There's about 7 or 8 placards with red backing. So please take those.
All right, I'm up. And they're just announcing now that the march will go ahead. And I think he said the route is going to be along here to Bathurst, up Bathurst to Castlereagh, down Castlereagh to Pitt, to Liverpool, down Liverpool to Pitt, and then to the Department of War in Australia, or the Defence Department. Okay, so we got these are the Teachers Federation. The cops are getting their high vis on now that they're going to be mobile. It will be a very short march. I've done this a couple of times now. And then they're going to have extra, we hear it always anyway, but they'll have extra speeches at the, I think that's the guy. I think he might be the guy that will speak. He speaks at everything every year who's related to someone from Hiroshima, etc. So there's a crowd of maybe 50, maybe. It's always hard to judge. 20, maybe 50. And there's a smaller contingent of police here than this morning's one. Anyway, that's a long story. So Copper, he's a head honcho. Copper, he seems to be talking to the musician guy about something that they're going to, he's going to get them to move up a little. So we'll get ahead and we'll start filming.
By the one who made atonement for us.
Jesus was against war. Peace. He's the only way to heaven, brother.
is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're fighting for, no youth, no war. This is what we're
All right, so the coppers are in front now. Let's get rid of this last tram. Get rid of these last lot of people.
No war. When do we want it? Yeah, what do we want? No war. When do we want
Lady's always here selling her
it?
gear.
What do we want? No
I think she's part of the Christians.
Yeah, when do we want it? Now. Yeah, when do we want it? Now. Woo!
Right, I'm sort of stuck. I can't get through. We'll go after these. Oh, here's this guy. He's the Yugoslavian. He's from the Yugoslavian groups. And I don't know why he's shouting them down, but yeah, he's part of the Yugoslavian crew. The cops I think the cops are used to him, so they just gave him a bit of a march off. So this is heading up now. So the cop cars are just, they've got a BYD as well. The new, no, that's the people that run the roads. So it's a very short. It'll be a very short march, and it should be quite brisk as well because there's a small group. That's pretty much everyone in the line of sight there. Like a couple of these elderly at the end, and a baby in a pram. But everyone's back off. The roads reopened pretty much for pedestrians, and then the cars will sneak up from behind. Here come the cop cars, so they're going to sneak up, but they're getting everyone off the road. I don't know. It's hard to know. It's the cops and plus the BYD. Like I said, I'll see on the side. So we'll pause for a minute. We'll get back up the front, and yeah. They got a sign saying "Follow me" here. Oh, they go down this way, so it is a big. Oh yeah, I see. Sorry, I chose the wrong way. Hey, brother, how you going? I chose the wrong direction. It's okay. He's just a friendly copper who chats to me and says hello. And he chatted me once about his his honeymoon and his snorkeling adventures, because I talk about snorkeling. I'm a bit of a snorkeling tragic. And he'd tell him about all the fish and all this. And now all the protesters look and they think, oh, what's this? This guy's part of the cops. But go on about that a bit. But so it's it goes down here past the fire and rescue. You can see up there inside the fire station. It's primarily a gym. It's this chocker block full of barbells and dumbbells. You can see them in there. So the coppers have to come out. I mean, not coppers. The fireys do have to come out occasionally and go to a false alarm, and then they head back into the gym. Normally in the evening one, you can see them all in there working out in their singlets. But anyway, that's another thing. Sorry, I chat too much when we're doing these things, just to entertain myself a little bit. So the car at the end, pretty sure it's the Department of Roads or something or other. Oh yeah, this good shot of the dumbbells. And it's Transport for New South Wales. So it's a Transport for New South Wales. Now the bloody fire engines are coming out right on time, and he's telling them to get the copper's telling these guys to get a wiggle on, and then here comes the fireys. The boys have to leave the gym for 5 minutes till they go and turn the switches. I've done a lot of these rants about the fireys. And there was a little bit of excitement added to it all. All right, let's get down the front. I could probably cut through. Maybe I just cut through. Eh? Yeah, I'm gonna cut through. Okay, so we've cut them off at the pass, pretty much gone the opposite way around the block, and there are more alarms going off. This is just someone exiting. And here's these new new bike things that the council put in. And when you go around, they're all, as I always like to call them, they're mobile garbage bins. Got a bit of grog in there, some jacks. And then all of the posts have been either bent and smashed over, or knocked over, or gone. So you've got this new, it's a designated bike parking, and each of the bloody ones, no matter where you go, they're all been bloody whacked by a truck. This one hasn't, the front one hasn't, but the back one is completely bent backwards. So anyway, that's just an aside. That's the work. There we go. Look at this. Look at the angle on that. So he hasn't got much longer till he's looked like the other one. And they put this crappy little bit of concrete in there that you can just, I'm going to push it away with my brolly. That's how freaking useless it is. Anyway, they're coming up the street now. Here, the Communist Party guy, I can't remember his name. He's already here. The bikes are, he's struggling up the hill on his bike. I don't think they give him an e-bike. I think it's just I think they just get a standard bike. But then I guess these guys will be talking. I don't know why they're there, but they're there. So this is and you can, normally you can't get in there. It's just, what are we today? Saturday. So it's closed anyway. Sometimes you'll get someone sitting in there, but yeah, 320 pit. I'm not sure where they are compared to the what floor. Anyway, they're coming now. Here's the cops. I think guys just having a bit of grog, so they don't realise that they're going to be about 20, 30 cops here in a minute. So they'll be back. I think they'll probably won't keep the road closed for it. So my camera's so wonky. It's on a wonky angle. Alright, so this is the this guy's trying to, that's a hell of a lot. He's got to get into the Uber, back of the Uber there, but the bags are going to get scratched up. Oh, these guys. Anyway, no more chatting. Okay, so they're coming to this section now, where they will do the remainder of the speeches. So the guy's going to set up his microphone.
Thank you, everyone. Behind me is the Australian Defence Department. Give them a big... All right, we're very lucky to have with us Alison Broinowski. Alison is a former diplomat. She had posts in Asia and various parts of the world, and since coming back, she's been an integral part of the peace movement in Sydney. She's also a very important part of another group which is called the Australian for War Power whatsoever. So please welcome Alison.
Thanks, Dennis, and thanks everybody for coming. This is impressive, and I hope everyone looking out was seeing what we're on about and getting the message. Right now, we're in a situation where for 81 years we have been saying Hiroshima never again. I'm wearing my Japanese fireman's jacket for that very reason, because they're getting very close to doing it again. Our real worry right now is the president of our great ally and the Prime Minister of Penny Wong's great friend are getting together in desperation, and the only thing they've got left to win their war is nukes. We are in a very serious place right now. And what is our government doing about it? I'll tell you what they're not doing. These are governments, our two major parties, our two major parties are not signing the Treaty for the Prevention of Nuclear Weapons. They are not getting us out of absolutely wasteful, devastating, provocative AUKUS. They are not calling for some sort of review or dismantlement of the ANZUS alliance, which could get us into something even worse in our own region. They are not telling us where they're going to deposit the nuclear waste and the defunct materials from AUKUS. They are not talking to Indigenous Australian people about the land in which they're going to do this for thousands of years, and if it will be safe. None of these things they are doing. They're sitting on their hands, or maybe praying every night that the balloon won't go up while they're still in Parliament. Because believe me, the balloon is getting really ready to grow up. And the other thing they're not doing is being frank with the Australian people, keeping the promise that they made in 2023, and it was our noble Defence Minister who said it. We will be more transparent and accountable than ever before. What has happened in the last 3 years is less accountability, less transparency, less confiding in the Australian people, and that's us, about what they're doing to stop all of this happening. Another thing they're not doing, they're not joining up with somebody as good as the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Carney, and saying middle powers like us have to stop this rot, have to get away from these toxic alliances and make sure that things don't go in this disastrous direction that they are going at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And what they're also not saying, and this is the most important thing for us today, they're not saying no more Hiroshima, no more Nagasaki. They're not even saying it because they know what is likely to happen. And it will be the end of us all. There is absolutely no doubt. So what you will all try, should Australia do? What Australia should do? What Australia should do? And now I've lost my track. I had it, didn't I? Is get on, we should all get onto every MP and senator that we know and tell them these things. I will send this list around if it's helpful. Ask them these questions. What are you doing? Why are you not doing these things? Get an answer from them. They may not think about it for the first time, some of them, in their lives, but they should, because their lives may be nasty, brutish, and short. And finally, get them to remember what Paul Keating said. Australia needs security, not with people on the other side of the world, but in Asia and not against Asia. And I say that as a former diplomat. They will be happy now. Sorry.
Please thank Alison. And on that note she ended on, our security comes in Asia, not from Asia. But that's the positive note that we should go away with. On the negative side, we had two terrible wars going on, one in Ukraine, one in Iran. These two wars could cycle out of control. The danger of nuclear weapons has never been closer. It's most important that we're out there and saying the sorts of things to our politicians that Alison was saying. We also say that, I've lost my track now. I just wanted to quote a line from Alex's song. he was saying that the person who wrote the song said she'd been out marching since she was 10 years old, and now she was 72. So if you're not 72 yet, please keep marching and marching and marching and talking and talking. So thank you for a great day, and it's very important that we keep this up. Somebody asked me, when was the first one of these in Sydney? And the earliest one I can find is a report in the Tribune, the Communist Party paper of that time, from 1967. I'm sure it's older than that, but we've been going for a long time, and we're still there, we're still out there, we're still saying Hiroshima and Nagasaki, never again. Thank you everyone, and go home feeling well, satisfied with yourselves. Thank you.
Oh, okay. The usual, they have a regular guy that speaks, who is of Japanese heritage, and he normally speaks. So of all the ones I've been to, I think this is probably my third one, maybe the third at least. So okay, that's it anyway. Very short march, speeches, and the cops are down the road there blocking off the street for a period of time. So another knocking up more bloody giant buildings. All right, I won't rabbit on about garbage bins on the way home. We'll just head off and call that a day until the next one. So that was Hiroshima, Nagasaki, never again. Protests from town hall to outside the defence office. It's quite interesting to watch at the end. There's this big, I guess this big thing, they fill it up with concrete, and then they, oh yeah, there's a side on it, so it'll just back up next to the truck here. They fill it up with concrete, then just make this monstrosity bigger and bigger and bigger. You get a little bit of shielding here. Cops are starting to creep up a little. Oh, they have to have a lot of runoff bags and things. Oh yeah, he's got the face the wrong way. How's it going to get in? Oh, that rolls. Well, that's pretty clever. Oh, look at that. It's designed with a little roll in it, so that comes back now and goes to the back of the truck, the cement mixer, the concrete truck. But he's got, I guess he got, now the guy can't move it now, so they have to back the truck up into it. Oh, back it goes. Once it's in the slot, and they, oh, perfect, look at that. Oh, these guys are very accurate. And then the crane operator, maybe he operates a crane too, I don't know. Interesting. So now they're going to start, and the cement mixer, from my basic rudimentary knowledge, it's got a corkscrew inside, so it'll turn the other way, which it just did, and all the cement or concrete should come pouring out. If I have made the correct, if I have the right idea, which I think I do. Well, there it comes. So all the concrete gets poured in. Normally they have a truck. I think they usually have a truck that pumps it up. A pumping truck. Yeah, the cops are finished now. Not much more. We take off the high vis. They're heading back. This guy, he's doing his sign. Yeah, let's have a chat with them. A bit of excitement for him. Oh, people are leaving, so it's all pretty much done. Well, I was too excited about that. So, well, you know, I won't whack that on the end, but I do a bit of a bike rant, one of my famous bike rants at the end. So what we call these things is we call them mobile garbage bins, for obvious reasons. You see them down here, and they're just a curse. They're a curse to pedestrians. I spoke to the fireys one day, you know, they speak of the devil, here they come. And they just said, oh man, you know, the bikes are a hassle because they're dumped everywhere, but the riders are even worse because there's all these people. It's full of KFC. I normally stick my hand in, but today it'll be some Pringles, some KFC, some Chocky. They're just fucking dumped everywhere. This one's chock-a-block full of that one. No, we couldn't get the cup in that one. This one's just chock-a-block full of coffee cups. Chicken nuggets. No chicken nuggets today, but chock-a-block full of coffee cups. This is back in 5 minutes. The premises is closed. back in 5 minutes. We're going to shut down. Closure order. Public health. Oh, public health offence. What's it say? It is an offence. Oh, so they must have got busted selling some rogue rogue tobacco. Anyway, so then they're here. There's someone using one for once, but the bulk of them are just here. You'll see them like this, just falling over. Come down. Someone's had their bottle of wine, dumped it there. This poor shop. It's just shut. This premises are closed. I haven't seen one of these before. So they got busted for something. All right, the socialists are all leaving over there, all the red flag types. And then this will be along here. They'll have more of those, the parking zones I rabbited on about earlier, where they're just here. There's no rhyme or reason or anything about how they get dumped or left. They just dump it. It's the middle of the footpath. Just finish with it. You dump it off. That's how it works. And then you throw a few bits of garbage in the mobile garbage bin. A couple more outside the sushi. Come and have your sushi. Dump your bike off. And then as you go down, so this is Liverpool, coming down past the entry to the World Square. The coppers are just walking down in front. They go back to Day Street police station, end of the road here, another block and a half. So I don't think they mind these. It gets them out of the station to stretch their legs. Like the fireys get out of the fire station to just stretch theirs. And then these guys are always on the hop, the Uber Eats guys, because they're not allowed to, they're not supposed to park there, and they have to have a, they're supposed to wear high vis, and then you got all these freaking, see, there's the Uber car, he's just pulling up. These guys are getting out, the next one's getting in, so it's always busy. For these bike, someone's an Uber, a delivery bike. No, it's one of those. See, just that's one of the old ones. So I'm not going to use it. It's full of. Look, you get all these cans, all this shit in there. Got a broken light at the back. Even the only people that use them are the young people. And she even rejected that one because it's too old. I think the newer ones maybe have a double-sized battery. This poor lady, she's dropped all the shit everywhere. So outside the world. So that's the world tower. Another one dumped here. And now this is the coming up to the where they have to be. It's more across the road. They've got a pizza box in that one. What do you got? What do you got here? Yeah, that one's got a pizza box. There's a big advertising board plonked here as well inside the no parking T2. T2. So there's a brand new T2 open. So they leave that there. There'd have to be a driver there, or have to be a driver pretty close, because cops they'd be around giving tickets. But then on the other side, this is where I was telling you about the poles. Here are the beautiful poles, because all the trucks stop here. Like I said, they're as weak as hell. Like it's got the concrete that they've used is pretty shit. But I mean, not much is going to stand up. So you got a loading zone, and you got this new parking, new zone for the bikes, the dumping zone. So, and then if you're someone just trying to get across the street, and you're walking along, and your foot will go under there. You're down and out, and in a lot of trouble. They're always full of shit. These ones, it's just coffee cups. These, those drinks, whatever you call them, milk tea type things. This old guy, he's always here having a go. Someone's having a chat with him, being nice to him today. And then so you get down to the George Street, and they just kind of run amok down here too. Anyway, that's enough of that. Heading back, all done for the protest today. The Brumbies protest was very interesting. I don't mind that Nagasaki, Hiroshima Never Again one. Good intention. Then the earlier one was just a bit of a drama. So I did. There's one spare back wheel if you want it. The rest is gone. Same here. All these you haven't got a back wheel on this one. That's just, it's just spare parts if you need it. And then there's a garbage bin full. All right, done. That'll do. Signing out.